Whether you chalk it up to mental illness, excuses, or genuine possession is up to you, but let's get into it. Hello everybody, I'm your host Woody, and today we're going to be taking a look at 10 real prisoners who claim to be possessed by the devil. Number 10. Jason Brian Dalton. Some people think that demons and possession usually happens at a crossroads or maybe even with a Ouija board, but this is the 21st century. Jason Brian Dalton blamed it on his phone. He was an Uber driver, and on the evening of February 20th, he used a weapon to take the lives of multiple people. Dalton said that when he opened up the Uber app, he was presented with the symbol of the Eastern Star, which represents God on Earth. But apparently it wasn't God communicating with him through the phone, as he says that an image of the devil's head appeared on his screen, which he describes as looking like a cow with horns. He said that from that night, he could barely remember anything, except that the devil would apparently tell him where to go and whose lives to take, saying that it was like the devil completely took over his body and mind. Then when police apprehended him, he said that the screen on his phone went from black to red, and that the devil was no longer in control after that point. Number 9. Arne Johnson. It's impossible to go through any discussion about this topic without talking about this one specific case, and I'm sure you were all expecting to hear it, so let's get it out of the way. In 1981, a man named Arne Johnson killed his landlord, and the events went on to inspire the movie The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It. Before the night of the crime, Arne's fiance's brother appeared to become possessed by the devil, speaking in strange languages and his eyes turning black, among other things. As time went on, Arne would start taunting the demon, telling him to leave the brother alone and take him instead. He then went to investigate a spooky well and supposedly saw a demon, who took over his body and committed the crime. When he went on trial, his team pleaded not guilty by reason of demonic possession. A pretty bold move. Of course, the judge didn't accept this, and Arne was sentenced, only ending up serving about 5 years before he was released and married his fiancée. Number 8. Pazuzu Algarad. In North Carolina, a man going by the name of Pazuzu Algarad was arrested after it was discovered he had been burying bodies of his victims. He had taken on the name Pazuzu in reference to the demon from The Exorcist, and had even undergone some strange body modification, making his tongue forked and sharpening his teeth. If that's already not weird enough for you, the man who was at the property when the bodies were discovered had a lot to say about Algarad. He said that the man was possessed by demons and that they would take over his body about once a month, usually around a full moon. He described it as being very serpentine and said that the man's eyes would get glazy, saying it was like the inner part of the man would fade away. And he also said that Algarad would sacrifice animals once a month. The interior of the home was also terrifying, as the walls were apparently covered in graffiti and dark symbols, and the building was deemed unsafe for human life. Number 7. Pamela Fornett. In Norfolk, Virginia, 2 police officers were called to the scene after receiving reports of a man screaming and yelling in the street, and it didn't end when they got there. The man apparently swore at the police and assaulted them, even biting one of the officers on the hand. Pretty strange, but I'm sure we've all bitten someone at some point, right? Well, it gets just a little bit weirder. A woman named Pamela Fornett is apparently the wife of the man who had attacked the officers, and had apparently been begging them not to hurt him despite his actions. She said that her husband hadn't been in his right mind because he had been possessed by a demon. Pamela said that she had even managed to catch the demon on camera and knew that it had possessed her husband, saying, "I caught it on camera, a demon, it really was, so I figured that's what got him." Unfortunately, I couldn't really find much more information on this other than the original report, so we may never know just what Pamela actually saw that day. Number 6. Tommy Smith. In February of 2015, a young man named Tommy Smith saw a car that he wanted, and he wanted it bad. Instead of, say, saving up money and purchasing it, he instead decided to steal the keys from the 65-year-old man driving the car. But when the man wouldn't give in, Smith got angry, attacking him with a weapon so aggressively that he even managed to snap it in half. Fortunately, the elderly man was able to survive, but suffered serious physical and mental damage as a result. When Smith went on trial for the attack, he said that he had started suffering from hallucinations a few weeks before the crime took place, and had actually been possessed by a demon at the time of the attack. Similar to Arne Johnson, the court didn't want to hear it, and noted the young man's history of schizophrenia. He ended up being charged but didn't go to jail, instead being sent to a mental hospital until they saw fit for him to be released. Number 5. David Berkowitz. Berkowitz. Throughout the 1970s, a man named David Berkowitz terrorized New York City. After already becoming a serial arsonist, he apparently started to hear the voices of demons in his head telling him to commit crimes. When he moved to a new home, he started to believe that his neighbors and their dogs were possessed by demons. And when he moved to a new apartment in the same area, his neighbor was a retiree named Sam, who he believed was a powerful demon. Sam's dog named Harvey was also apparently a demon, and Berkowitz believed that the dog was telling him to kill. His neighbor's name of Sam is also how he got his later name, which was Son of Sam. Soon after, people were turning up dead and police were trying to figure out who it was. During a break from the crimes, Berkowitz wrote a note to the New York Post that said, "I am still here like a spirit roaming the night, thirsty, hungry, seldom stopping to rest." He was eventually caught for the crimes and received a whopping 365 years in prison, where he apparently became a born-again Christian. Number 4. Nikolai Ogolobyak. Of course, things like this don't just happen in America, so let's head over to Russia in August of 2008. In a forest outside of a Russian town, 4 bodies were discovered, all seemingly having gone through something pretty terrible. It turned out that the crime had been committed by 6 self-proclaimed Satanists, the group being led by a man named Nikolai. They believed that human sacrifices were required to please Lucifer, or the devil, and the crime had been a part of an initiation ritual. The bodies had been discovered only 250 meters from Nikolai's own home, and one of the bodies had a sheet of paper that contained 101 rules of the Satanists. The young man received 20 years in prison, while the rest of the members of the group received various different charges ranging from 8 to 10 years. This isn't the first time that a crime has been committed for the sake of a ritual or cult, and it certainly won't be the last. Number 3. Kody Lott. Over the years, men have been known to do crazy things over unrequited love, and this story is especially tragic. 2 young women were walking down a footpath in September of 2016 when they were approached by a man in a car. That man was named Kody Lott. He then attacked both the girls with a weapon, only one of them surviving the event. At his trial that took place 2 years later in 2018, Lott claimed that he had actually spoken with the devil, and that the devil had even helped him to plan the attack, saying it was due to one of the girls having a boyfriend and his own frustration over not having been able to find a romantic partner. Due to these claims, he was found mentally unfit to stand trial and sent to the maximum security unit of a Texas mental hospital. After he was released and was able to stand trial, he was sentenced to life in prison. Oddly, his parents then sued the state of Wichita to get the weapon used in the crime back, saying it had been stolen from their apartment, so I guess it was pretty important to them. Number 2. Zambrano. On September 10, 2015, in Queens, New York, a body was discovered. It was the body of Angie Escobar, who had apparently died after being attacked with a pair of scissors, reportedly having been there for about 4 days before she was found. Police were quick to find a suspect, arresting the woman's short-term boyfriend, Zambrano, who had attempted to run away to Virginia. When put on trial, he claimed that he had 2 reasons for the attack. 1, demonic possession, and number 2, trust issues. One of these things is not like the other. Everyone who heard his declaration was disgusted, both the victim's family and the judge calling him out on his ridiculous claim, believing he was clearly using it as a poor excuse. He was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison, also receiving an extra 3 years for an unrelated burglary charge. And I wonder if that one was the devil's fault too. Number 1. Michael Taylor. A lot of people think that exorcisms are a thing of the past, but they're most definitely not. The Archdiocese of Indianapolis reportedly receiving around 1,700 exorcism requests in the year of 2018 alone. Back in 1974, an exorcism took place in England, the possessed man being Michael Taylor. He had joined a church and allegedly started having an affair with the congregation leader, Marie Robinson. During the time they spent together, Taylor went from a seemingly happy man to a more angry and irritable one, until eventually the two were caught naked together and Taylor blamed it on an evil presence or demon that was within him. A vicar was called in to perform an exorcism on him, and in October of that year, they reportedly expelled a whopping 40 demons from his body. Despite them believing that there were still 3 evil demons inside him, they let him go on his way. And only a few years later, he was found covered in blood, and he said it was the blood of Satan himself. Well, it was actually the blood of his wife, him having taken her life. Taylor was put on trial but was found not guilty due to reason of insanity. Thank you guys for watching. That was 10 real prisoners who claim to be possessed by the devil. I've been your host, Woody. Join us next time for more lists and scary things.